This is the Germans from Russia Experience, Episode 11, Weddings in the Volga German Community and Beyond. Welcome to the Germans from Russia Experience. I am your host, Elisa Rodriguez, and I am here to inspire you and others to learn anything and everything about your own family heritage by providing information, experiences, and stories about a special group of people, the Germans from Russia. Hello, everyone. I'm Elisa, your host and creator, and today I will be sharing the tradition of weddings of our ancestors in Germans from Russia communities. I loved to go to weddings as a little girl, bridal showers and baby showers too. I loved everything about them. Really, everything. I loved to dress up. I loved the food. I loved the games and the gifts. When it came to plan my own wedding, I wanted all the traditions included. However, the budget would not allow everything I could dream of. But the most memorable part of my own wedding was that I often share with others when we're comparing stories is that a mariachi band started playing in the next room just as we began to say our wedding vows. We were lucky that our pastor, my cousin and godfather Michael, had a booming voice, so there were no delays. I giggled then, and I still giggle today, 30 years later. In the United States, we generally think of wedding season as springtime or early summer. However, I feel like that's been changing over the last, 20 or 30 years. People are planning weddings for other days of the week and other times of the year. Along the Volga, for the 150 years the Germans lived there, traditions could have also changed over time. However, here is the information I have gathered concerning the wedding traditions of that time. Hochzeit, the high times. When a young man had his eye on a young lady and decided he wanted to marry her, he first asked his own parents. They must approve and bless the marriage and approve of the young lady. Then the young man would plan to visit the young lady's home. He would bring along his own father and godfather. Upon arrival, the father and godfather would talk him up, saying what a great husband and provider he would be and what a great wife their daughter would be. He would also bring the prospective bride a gift from his mother. If this was acceptable, everyone began to celebrate with refreshments and lots of handshaking. If the union was not accepted during the first visit, the young man and his supporters would make another visit to continue to make his case to marry the young lady. Sie sind gefreit. They are engaged. Then a wedding date could be set. Weddings were held in the winter, so as not to interfere with the planting and harvest seasons. They were also held during the week, as the weekends were still all about church. After the engagement and wedding date were set, there was a dinner. Funghof, with both families invited to seal the deal. For the next 3 Sundays, an announcement would be made during the church service to allow anyone who objected to the union to speak up. Hochzeitslade. Invitations were made in person by the godfather and close male friends of the groom. By traveling from house to house with a wooden cane or walking stick that the bride-to-be had tied a ribbon onto, they would say the following words, recited here by my friend Petra.
Bis zum kommenden Dienstag ist das Fest. So stellt euch ein, ihr lieben Gäst. Steckt auch Messer und Gabeln ein, es wird was zum Verschneiden sein. Ein altes Schaf und eine lahme Kuh, die kommen ganz gewiss dazu. Ein Schwein ist plötzlich umgekommen, das wird gewiss dazugenommen. Und 7 Hühner und ein Hahn müssen alle auf einmal dran. Diese alle sind so fett wie ein gedörrtes Wagenbrett. Unsere Tante Annelies, sie backt die Kuchen sauer und süß. Das kann man glauben, für gewiss. Sie backt sie nach ihrer Art, sie macht sie wie ein Wagenrad. Sie hat rote Haare und Sommerflecken, das Essen wird vortrefflich schmecken. Es sind auch Musikanten da, die spielen Hopsa Tralala. Mit Pfeifen, Geigen und Dudelsack, da kann man tanzen nach dem Takt. Mein Stöckchen bitt um ein Band, so mach ich euch noch mehr bekannt. Blitz, Kreuz, es fällt mir noch was ein. Ich schweig ganz still vom Brantewein. Im Keller liegt ein Fass mit Bier. Es krisselt mich ja selbst dafür. Selbst gesehen hab ich's nicht. Ein bisschen Lügen schad auch nichts. Ei, da draußen fliegt ein Spatz. Gebt dem Hochzeitslader einen Schnaps.
The literal English translation is, I bring you a nice greeting from the bride and groom. They both request that you should be wedding guests. This coming Tuesday is the celebration, so set forth, dear guests. Bring along your knives and forks. There will be something to eat. An old wise sheep and a lame cow will certainly be there. A pig has suddenly been butchered, which will certainly be taken. And 7 hens and a rooster must all at one time be next. These are all so fat, like a dried-up wagon board. Our Aunt Alice bakes the cakes, sour and sweet, that one can believe. She bakes them in her own way, like a wagon wheel. She has red hair and freckles, so the food will taste awfully good. There will also be musicians who play hoop-sa-sa-tra-la-la. With fifes, violins, and bagpipes, one can dance with the time. On my cane tie a ribbon to make it known to you. Blitzkrieg, I have forgotten something else. I'll keep entirely quiet from the brandy. In the cellar is a keg of beer. I am attracted to it. I haven't seen it myself, but a little lying doesn't make any difference. Outside flies a sparrow. Give the wedding inviter a shot of whiskey. Not quite as humorous as in German, however, we can understand its charm. Guests would indicate that they would attend by adding their own, sometimes fancy, ribbon to the cane. Some households would offer drinks to the men. After several nights of these house-to-house invitations, the guest list was completed. Next came Polterabend. The night before the wedding, a social gathering and dance would be held for the young couple and their young friends. The friends would bring over china, not glass, plates, and smash them into tiny pieces on the doorstep for good luck. The more the better, and the louder the better. I have found this very hard to believe that Germans would go breaking china for this purpose. The friends were invited in for cake and whiskey. Then the couple would have to clean it all up as their first act as a couple working together. On the morning of the wedding, the groom and his best men would go to the bride's home to escort her to the church. More fun was had when the women would send out a decoy of sorts, like an old aunt disguised as the bride, to play a trick on the young men. They would express their disapproval and call out until the real bride appeared. There would be a procession to the church, with bridesmaids and groomsmen, and others would join in along the way. This would most likely be winter, so sometimes they would use a wagon to stay off the snow. Sometimes they would be accompanied by musicians. The bride may wear white dress and veil. However, there are many photos from the late 1800s and early 1900s in which the dresses appear to be black or some other dark color. but most are adorned with lace, ribbons, and flowers. The groom wore a large flower on his lapel with a long ribbon or sash hanging from it. You may have seen this in photographs. The groomsmen wore little flowers around their arms and hats. There was only one ring at the wedding ceremony, and it was placed on the bride's right middle finger. Often, several couples would be married on the same day, after a sermon was given by the pastor. Then the couples would go to the groom's family's home for the reception of cake and wine. The wedding party would line up outside and greet the guests who would give their well wishes as they arrived for the party. Sometimes guns were fired into the sky in celebration. Now, I have a hard time believing this, being that Germans don't waste anything. I can't imagine them wasting bullets from a gun. After the guests all arrived, the groom's mother would come out and invite the new bride inside her new home, as she was now a part of her husband's household. The festivities began with the men of the church singing and saying a prayer. Then the music would start and dancing would begin. Food and drinks like potato schnapps and fine grape wine were served. Also, a punch consisting of hot tea with cognac. Weddings could last up to 3 days. People would come and go, and 2 meals would be served each day. The food that was served could be roast, dumplings, fruit soups, or other dishes and breads. Gifts were all in the form of money, with the exception of pillows made by the bride's grandmother that were passed around to the guests to place gifts on. There was also what we call today the money dance, in which cash bills were pinned to the bride's dress and the groom's ribbons in payment for a dance with them. Coins could be collected inside the bride's drinking glass as well. At some point during the celebration, one of the bride's shoes would be stolen. It was later presented with much drama and fanfare on a pillow and offered up to the highest bidder. The best man was expected to be the highest bidder. Depending on the means of the family, weddings could be very elaborate or basic, as they are still today. Both families contributed, and they would make this day as special as possible since it was the most significant event in their children's lives. The mothers and other women would make all the food, so they did not attend the actual wedding at the church. After the celebrations were all complete, a dowry may be brought to the groom's family, such as a few animals. The new bride would then take her place as a woman in this home, which no doubt had at least 3 generations living under one roof. The wedding traditions did not stop as people emigrated to the United States. One part of this is the tradition of music and dancing. Organ music would be played during the wedding itself, which did not last very long compared to the parties that followed. After a morning wedding, the party would most likely take place at the home of the bride's family. It could start as early as 10 a.m. in the morning and go on throughout the day. Food would be served at noon, and then music and dancing would be going on and on, sometimes with different music groups performing at different times of the day. In the evening, a full band would play into the night. Traditions included separate marches to introduce the couple and the wedding party, such as the Hochzeit march. The first dance was the wedding couple. Then the best man and bridesmaids would join and dance with the couple. Lastly, the parents would dance with the couple. And then after all, the wedding party would all join in together. When it was time to eat, you may hear Tischmarsch. This would beckon the couple to the table, as the wedding party would whoop up in celebration. Another march that may be played when additional guests arrived in the evening for the meal is the Dicha March. As they entered, they may give cash to the band in payment. After a bit, the band may play Tellerbitte and pass around a dish to collect payments or tips for the cooks and then for the band. Later, people would pay to dance with the bride. In some cases, these tips went to the band, and in others, the dollars may be pinned to the bride and groom as gifts for them to start their new life together. It was also common for a few men to sing a narrative toast to the couple. In a humorous way, they would sing to the couple, offering advice on how to have a good married life together. Next, there may also be a group of men who would begin to sing folk songs, maybe as the band took a break. The music and dancing would continue late into the night. My dear aunt told me a story that when she was married in 1956, that the week after the wedding, a group of relatives and friends showed up and brought a box full of canned foods with all the labels removed. These were meant to be opened randomly and prepared for the dinners in the first months of marriage. Also, she said, people would show up at random times to the new couple's home and bang on the doors and make all kinds of noise to disturb their private time together. This was supposed to be fun. However, I would surely jump out of my skin, and I am certainly glad this tradition is not still happening. This is the first and only time I've heard of this, the canned foods and the banging on the windows and doors. If you've heard of this, let me know, because I haven't heard this from anyone else. Another tradition around the festivities of weddings is the mock wedding. I have found this difficult to research, and I have never seen one in person. However, I'm learning that at a Harvest Fest, Oktoberfest, or other party, a mock wedding may be held. This sounds logical during Oktoberfest, since Oktoberfest originated in Munich, Germany in 1810 to celebrate the marriage of Prince Ludwig von Bayern to Princess Theresa von Sachsen-Hildburghausen. The festival we know today began as a one-time celebration, but the royal family and the people of Munich enjoyed it so much that they decided to make it an annual event. As the years went on, there were events such as horse racing that took place during Oktoberfest, and today it is the largest festival in the world with an international flavor that is extremely characteristic of the 21st century. More than 6 million visitors from all over the world take part in Oktoberfest in Munich every year. That is one big wedding. So back to the mock wedding. At a party, a couple may be chosen ahead of time and are expected to be dressed in opposite clothes. So the man will be the bride, all decked out in as fancy of a dress that he can prepare, maybe from a gift shop, for example, a wig and a veil too. His groom is the woman, who should follow suit in a man's suit with a hat and facial hair to boot. While these two are getting dressed, the Hochzeitlade, as mentioned above, will travel around the party from table to table with a cane and invite the guests to the wedding. Each guest will tie a ribbon on the cane and agree to attend the wedding. Then the couple is presented for the ceremony, in which hilarity may ensue as the couple vows all kinds of silly things to each other. After the ceremony, the couple is introduced and paraded around to all the tables where money is pinned to their clothes to begin their new life together. When the couple has had enough, they may exit and change their clothes. I have some photos of my grandparents as the mock wedding couple. This party took place in their own backyard before 1950. I will share those along with actual wedding photos of my grandparents and great-grandparents on my podcast Facebook page. I encourage you, too, to share your family wedding photos there as well. If you do not have wedding photos of your grandparents or great-grandparents, try searching newspapers.com. You may be surprised what you will find. Prost! Thank you for listening to the Germans from Russia experience. I hope that something you heard today will inspire you to learn anything and everything you can about your ancestors. If you like what you heard, please leave a review, like, and share this podcast. You can comment directly, and I'd love to hear from you by emailing me at thegermansfromrussiaexp@gmail.com. Also, like my Facebook page, the Germans from Russia Experience Podcast. Please see my show notes for website suggestions to begin or continue your discovery of your Germans from Russia roots and about this podcast. My podcast artwork is by Matt Wall, and I receive technical support from my friend Annie Anderson.